Come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready. Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Oh, it's evident that Wookie is better attired, more articulate than I am, and he's living the life. Look, and he's yachting and has the very fine studio. It's wonderful to be introduced by the Wookie. Thank you, Wook. We're going to return now that we are in our library studio with where we left off on the last word picture. We are presenting Dowd's recovery. It is in the 116th Mizmowr or Psalm, and it is after we've had the double interventions. Both Yahowah has sent his Amma, his most productive mother, to be a surrogate mother for Dowd, and she got his attention. She talked to him about the issues he was having with alcoholism and depression, and overemphasizing the physical as opposed to the spiritual, and particularly being fixated with his bashar body as opposed to his nephesh soul. After she had garnered his attention, caused him to be receptive, then it would be me who would meet with him. I was operating under the name Ethan Ha as Rocky at the time. It's very insightful. We'll examine it as we make our way through this material, and you'll understand why I came to the understanding that this is the second part of that intervention that led to this marvelous retort by Dowd in recovery. So that everyone is mindful, Dowd had been in service to Yah and to Yisrael, the covenant family, since he was 8 years old, and continued to do so quite well. In fact, probably better than anyone, up to the time that he was 56 years old when the wheels fell off. And he put himself in a very difficult position with Yahowah. Excuse me. And after doing so, he, rather than admit that he had made a mistake, rather than getting up once he had fallen, he kind of wallowed in his depravity there for a while. And so God was not going to intervene directly. He doesn't do that sort of thing, particularly when off the rails. He inserted somebody, in this case, two somebodies, a husband and wife, a surrogate mother and father for Dowd, to get his life back on track. And as a result, well, here we are. And he would say, I myself said, I testified in my sorrowful depression and alarming condition. That's where he was, following the Bathsheba incident. With my hasteful disappointment and impetuous anxiety, my panic and my dismay, and my impulsive emotional instability, and my rash disenchantment, my hot-headed outburst, and my apprehension that everybody lies. Yeah. The entirety of the human race is deceived and deceptive, dishonest and delusional, deluded by false gods, and destined to failure. That was Psalm 116:11. Well, as we know, following his bad judgment regarding Bathsheba and then him lashing out at God after the affair, in that prior depressed state, that since he was being disingenuous, he assumed that, well, everyone was dishonest. And at the time, he projected his assessment upon God. But after recalibrating his thinking, he realized that it was he who had been wrong, and Yahowah could be trusted, and so could those who were speaking for him. So in a general sense, apart from Yahweh and the few he has chosen to project his testimony, everyone does lie. And the political schemes are made to appear believable through babble, commingling truth and lies to make counterfeits appear credible. And the larger the institution, the greater and more credible the deceptions. Even today, this is the bane of democracy and of AI, both of which are biased in favor of popular appeal, and thus in favor of religion and politics, which are in opposition to God, but are the most popular institutions among men. So Dowd's assessment was pretty accurate. Now, as we considered Dowd's next refrain, this is the first that I'm neither certain I nor my wife inspired. Our perspective is that Yahweh has clearly stated what he wants in return for all he has afforded us. In fact, we earn what he has to give by offering him what he expects in return. There is no reason to ask God for something he has previously articulated. Nevertheless, Dowd would write, "What will I return? Shoot, what will I bring back and restore to Yahweh for all of his goodness, generosity, advantages, and benefits to me?" Well, the good news is that our king has grown from being embittered to appreciative. But again, we ought not ask God what we shall offer him in return for all that he has been willing to give us in terms of the benefits of the covenant. They are articulated. God's made it really clear. This is what I want you to do. But maybe it was just Dowd saying, the magnitude of how he has been favored by Yah deserves a special dispensation, a special amount of devotion. And he would follow through and, of course, fulfill Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym, which is as devoted as anyone has ever been. So perhaps his question was even answered by what follows. This reads, "The cup, the vessel of Yeshua, deliverance and salvation, I will lift up and carry." Yeah, that is indeed the answer. And and in that name of Yahweh, I will be summoned and called. I will read aloud and be welcomed as I am appointed to the Miqra, Kara. So it's indeed true. This was Dowd's response. He lived up to his calling as God had returned to him and he returned to God. Ultimately, they would collaborate on the spring Miqra. And so the cup that Dowd would uphold of Yeshua, the cup of salvation, of deliverance, is the one that Dowd would lift and carry. He fulfilled Pesach, opening the door to life. Matsah, carrying our guilt into Sheol. And then Bikuwrym, becoming the firstborn of firstborn children. It is the cup of Yeshua, of deliverance and salvation. And it was borne by Dowd himself, our king, in his second of 3 lives. It was something he would bear, lift up, so as to provide salvation. And with and in the name of Yahweh, he says, I will be summoned, I will be called, I will be read aloud and welcomed as I am appointed to the Miqra. Kara, I'm invited, I'm called out, I'm designated, known, recited, and met with, mentioned by name. And indeed, that is true. Kara is the verbal base of Miqra, and in the plural Miqra. The difference between Kara and Miqra is that the my prefix encourages us to ponder the implications of being invited, called out, designated, appointed, summoned, and of reading and reciting as we are welcomed to meet with God. So asked and answered, I suppose. Dowd would show his appreciation for Yahweh by following through on his calling. He would fulfill Chag Matsah and thereby complete his life's mission. He would become our Savior. Although, to do so, it would take a second of 3 lives. It would be 1,000 years thereafter, and he would do exactly as he would report in the 22nd and 88th Mizmowr, suffer crucifixion to fulfill Passover, and then enter hell for a heavenly cause in the fulfillment of Matsah, so that we could all enjoy Bikuwrym. He would indeed, Nasa, lift our burdens. He would carry them away. This is one of many affirmations that Dowd not only restored his relationship with Yahowah, but came to understand the very purpose of his life and the value of what he would achieve in collaboration with Yahowah. So now that we are aware of what the king had to say, he actually knew the answer to his question, did he not? And we can take credit for sharing this with him. This is something that we impressed upon him. It was the purpose of our parental counsel. And while that is reassuring, recognizing that Leah and I were the first to realize that Dowd fulfilled the spring Miqra, we were also the first to ascertain what God wants most from us, and that is shalom, for us to finish the job that we have been given, to see it through. These are 2 powerful discoveries that the very people who made these discoveries are the ones that shared them with Dowd, who then fulfilled them. My promise and offering to Yahowah, I will complete, he said, shalom, totally satisfying and fulfilling the purpose, conspicuously in all earnestness, as a corresponding counterpart, publicly, before all of his people. Psalm 116:14. It is the very thing, these last 2 statements, that we have reemphasized and affirmed and introduced and discovered and shared in as many ways as words allow. Dowd answered the call and fulfilled the Miqra. And in so doing, he delivered Yeshua, salvation. That is his promise. That was his offering. That was his nadir, vow of personal service to Yahowah. He restored his relationship with God and therefore was in a position to shalom, totally complete, satisfying, fulfilling the purpose of his life. He would bring it to fruition. He would do so conspicuously, in all earnestness, as a corresponding counterpart, publicly, neged, before all of his people. Indeed, at the crossroads of civilization, year 4000 Yah, in Yaruwshalaim, the city of Dowd, Yahowah, the province of the beloved of Yah, just as he had foretold. So the king promised to do what was most needed. He neged conspicuously, as Yahweh's counterpart, in full transparency, served as the Passover lamb by allowing the Romans to crucify his body at the crossroads of the world. It's a shame that his people didn't recognize what he accomplished on their behalf. And for not having done so, they would deceive and deprive themselves through the religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. their king, their savior, offered them everything, and they threw it all away. It's when you read something that it's this affirming of what you've come to know, and you realize that you were the first to come to know it and to share it boldly and prove it. And you find affirmation after affirmation. Sometimes you just shake your head and say, why did everyone else miss it? Millions, billions have had access to these same texts, and they all missed it. Why? Well, clear that Dowd said it. He did what he said. And so will I. And most have chosen to ignore and reject his gift and will reject mine. Exceedingly rare and influential, highly valued and honored, treasured and respected for their intrinsic worth. In the eyes of Yahowah is the death of the physical bodies of his chesed, his most reliable and devoted ones. Mizmowr song, Psalm 116:15. Boom, boom, boom. Everything right in a line, everything confirmed, everything out in the open for us to appreciate, to learn from, to embrace, to accept, to enjoy. Here it is. He would come to know that there are two men, three to some extent, that would do this very thing. That the death of their physical bodies, the mayeth, this process of mortal demise, would cause Yahowah, from his perspective, to view these most reliable and devoted ones, the ram, the bull, then the goat, Dowd, Yada, and Elia, the most exceedingly rare and therefore treasured and respected for their intrinsic worth, for what they are offering, and how uniquely important and significant it is, with them willing to part with their physical bodies. Now, the fact that God appreciates this is a little bit, amazing for me to see, because, normal people would value their physical bodies above all else, and would see that someone offering to sacrifice their physical body would be the greatest of all gifts that could be offered. And yet what they don't know is that physical body, while painful in its demise, is disposable. It's replaceable. It's the soul that matters. And so Yahowah is valuing the souls that are willing to do this, knowing that it costs them nothing but some trust and some pain, while the return is highly influential, highly valued, honorable, has tremendous intrinsic worth. It is yakar. And those who are willing to do so are chesed, reliable, devoted, set apart from others. Powerful insight. I don't know if my words are sufficient to convey its import, but I certainly understand it. Resonates deep within me. I hope it's appreciated by others. Dowd clearly came to understand that this is the ultimate response. When Yahowah says, I want the three things from you. I want you to be observant, I want you to be responsive, and I want you to be reliable. That there is no greater example of that than Dowd's fulfillment of the spring Miqra, Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym. Second on to that would be my fulfillment of the fall Miqra. And Elia making a sacrifice as well. So it is exceedingly rare. And obviously that's understated. 3 people among, well, there have been 100 billion humans. There are only 3 whose physical bodies are sacrificed for the greater good of the covenant family. And 2 of the 3 were likely standing together when Dowd wrote these words, as we will be again, 7 years after me sharing them with you, because that's when we will celebrate Yom Kippurim in year 6000, October 2nd of 2033, as the sun sets in Jerusalem, the city of Dowd. By making this prophetic pronouncement, our king has come to realize that the bashar, the physical body, into which his nephesh soul would be inserted in year 4000, would be slain during the fulfillment of Pesach as the AL lamb. And he also knew that he would not be alone, since Maweth and Chesed were both conveyed in the plural forms. He foresaw that the other would be the Adamah Parah, the man as the productive bull. And this is from the explanations at Bamidbar 19, such that he would be Dowd would be the groom in the fulfillment of Bamidbar 5. He came to appreciate the roles of the ram, the bull, and the goat as presented in Bamidbar Numbers 15, affirming that by being chesed, devoted, and reliable, we would all become yakar, respected, influential, highly regarded in the eyes of Yah. We observed and came to know. We thought and came to understand. We responded and added value. And in the end, we demonstrated that we could be relied upon. That's all Yah was asking. Emphasizing and requesting this, earnestly seeking this opportunity that will occur, Yahweh, indeed, it is true. I am your coworker. I am your servant. I am the son of your Amah, productive mother. You have responded to open and release that which pertains to my bonds, freeing me from losing self-control through disciplined instructions. My shackles, my fetters, my chains, representing correction through a stern rebuke pursuant to resolve a just penalty because of the warning by way of the axioms for life, words that changed the future conduct of my life. La Morsor Ani. Psalm 116:16. You know, sometimes I wonder when I read these kinds of things, excuse me, she's really, Asher again, really got into a bad episode of cutting herself again on her paws. I've never seen her quite as vicious in doing so, so I'm trying to get her attention away from it. The distraction is what she needed. As I was saying, that sometimes I wonder if I have the words, if I can convey to you the import of what we're reading here and how profound this is, how affirming this is of really the greatest discovery in human history. Heretofore, no one knew that Dowd was the Messiah and Son of God, who became our Savior by fulfilling the spring Miqra. And no one knew how Dowd came to realize that this was his calling in life. But I did. And I not only proved it, I shared this with you. And here now, we realized in reading this that the man who was so distraught in a alcoholic and stupor of depression for having made a horrific series of choices only to lash out and blame God for the mess he had made for himself, was now completely recovered. He knew exactly who he was. He knew how he had regained his presence with Yahowah. And he knew exactly what he was going to do. And not only did he know that he was going to be among those who offered his physical body for the salvation of the covenant family, he now was chomping at the bit. He wanted to do this. The moment he appreciated the fullness of this opportunity for him to complete the job, for him to be all that God had seen in him, for him to save his people. He was saying, I'm emphasizing this. I'm requesting this. I earnestly seek this opportunity, and I know that it's going to occur, Yahowah, because indeed it's true that I am exactly what has been said of me. I am your coworker. I am your servant. And I am the son of your Amma, of your productive mother. Wow. When you read that in conjunction with what we have just considered, I mean, it's the fulfillment of everything that I have learned that is important and shared with you over the last 5 years. Really, it's that important. Powerful. You have responded to open and release that which pertains to my bonds, freeing me from losing self-control through disciplined instruction. Yes, Yahowah sent his Amma to Dowd. We read all about that intervention in the last Mishal, the 31st proverb. And now, following that, we know that that was the first of two. In that meeting, the Amma confronted Dowd about his alcoholism. She confronted him about his fixation on the flesh. She confronted him about his depression. And she told him that, you are way too important, way too special to your people, to God, to me, to continue to wallow in your present fallen state. She garnered Dowd's attention. She lifted him out of depression. And then I was able to present the 89th Mizmowr, systematically revealing exactly who Dowd is, who Yahowah is, and even who I am. It's all there. It is where he came to these conclusions. It's why he made these statements. And it is how Yahowah released him from the bonds that he had imposed upon himself as a result of him losing self-control, because he was offered discipline, instruction. Well, this is the same message echoed for the same reason as I have shared in the 86th Mizmowr. And it's the same message throughout that is conveyed in the 89th. But Dowd had repeatedly referred, or Yahowah had repeatedly referred to Dowd as his Ebed co-worker, saying this over and over again in the glorious song to his son, the 89th Mizmowr. And now Dowd was prepared. Indeed, he was eager. He wanted to live up to his calling. He couldn't wait for the opportunity that he knew would come. And let's acknowledge, yes, let's celebrate the realization that just as is the case with Psalm 86, this was all possible because Yahowah presented the Amma, the most productive mother, to his son Dowd. She began the process of releasing the king from his self-imposed shackles. She would teach him all about self-control. Hers would be disciplined instruction. But you notice 3 times in the last word picture, it is said specifically that she was there with her Baal. They would work at this together. As a result of this statement, it is now incumbent upon us not only to explore the whole of the 86th Psalm, while re-examining the 89th Mizmowr with fresh eyes from an entirely new perspective. You know, I had thought that there had to be something that commemorated year 3000 Yah, although quite frankly, the years that are important are 40 Yobel. 40 Yobel from the expulsion from Eden is, we go from 3968 BCE to 1968 BCE, and the affirmation of the covenant narrative with Abraham and Yishak on Mount Moriah. And 40 Yobel from that point, we have Dowd fulfilling Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym on that same mountain in Yobel year 4000, yeah. And 40 Yobel from that point is when Dowd returns, year 2033, fulfilling Yom Kippurim after we provide restitution on Teruah, making Sukkah possible. And so the midpoint in all of that time isn't a grand celebration of the date, and we are so close to it. And I had thought that maybe the 89th Mizmowr, as powerful as it is, was God's cornerstone, if you will, that it was delivered at the same time that the cornerstone was laid for the temple that Solomon would be constructing, beginning in year 3000 Yah, 968 BCE, and completing 7 years thereafter. But that's not the case. Close, but not the case. And I had thought that Ethan Ha-Hizraki was a description of the attitude that was necessary to scribe this, but that for the most part, the 89th Mizmowr was God speaking to his son, and that's partly true, but the role that Ethan Ha-Hizraki plays in that psalm is considerable. And it has become absolutely obvious based upon the text of this Mizmowr, the 116th, alongside the horrible nature of the 51st, following the 31st proverb, that it was the 89th Mizmowr that turned Dowd around. And so it was delivered to him sometime between, Well, him being 56 years old and the Bathsheba incident, I suspect after the Absalom rebellion. And when it was presented to him, this is the result. And whether it was the last 4 years or 8 years of his life, Dowd got his act together. This is the Dowd that we've come to know and love. This is the Dowd that is the one who fulfilled the spring Miqra. This is the king that will return in year 2033, year 6000, Yah. This is the Dowd that we have celebrated and have been honored to burnish his resume, that we have reintroduced to his people in the world for all he has accomplished. And while I've always thought of the 89th Psalm as Dowd's song as a celebration of all that he represents, and it is that, it is also the impetus for him becoming the man that we admire. So if I may go one step further in light of all of this in the 31st Mashal, we would be wise to consider every proverb, realizing that most of them were written by a father and mother, a husband and wife, on behalf of their son, in light of all that Yahweh intended for them. And in that regard, as we move forward and we consider the co-author of the 89th Mizmowr, we'll find that according to God, he is also the author of the Mashal, 30 of 31. And one song, the 89th. If not for the fact that religious and societal recalcitrance, particularly among the chosen people, remains a formidable barrier to penetrate, I would and could rest my case with these previous and this next prophetic expression from the chosen Messiah and King, Dowd. Yes, Dowd fulfilled Passover as the Lamb. The statement reads, on your behalf and for you, I will absolutely become the sacrificial offering. Zabak, Zabak, I am the sacrifice, and it's me who will be butchered. Thankful for the opportunity, while conveying appreciation. And in the name of Yahweh, I will be summoned and read aloud, called out and welcomed, as I have always been appointed to the Miqra. Psalm 116, 17. There it is. Dowd, who the world knows as David, the Messiah and King, the very Son of God, the chosen one. He fulfilled Passover. The disposable body his soul carried at the time served as the lamb. He was grateful for the opportunity because it pleased his Father. It served his people. It engendered the trust he would need to be king forevermore. Well, I was alone after 25 centuries of denial in recognizing Dowd's fulfillment of the Miqra through his sacrificial offering, and remain among the few who acknowledge it. And all who do have learned what they have learned based upon what I discovered. One individual can make that kind of difference. So within 7 years, all who survive will know what we have come to recognize. our king, Dowd, will be acclaimed for having been appointed to the Miqra. He will be celebrated as the tree of lives, and it will be the tree of knowledge who takes the world to him. The single most important line throughout this Mizmowr is the one being repeated and reinforced at the close of Dowd's song to his father. It reads, "My binding promise and offering to Yahowah, I will honor. I will complete, totally satisfying and fulfilling. Shalem, I will finish bringing to fruition, emphatically doing so, conspicuously, in all earnestness, as a corresponding counterpart, publicly, in front of all of his people." Mizmowr song, Psalm 116:18. He did. We are the beneficiaries. Now let's tell the world. Within the courtyard and city of the house of Yahowah, in your midst, Yaruwshalaim, source of instruction on reconciliation. Hallelujah. Yah. Shine. Yahweh's light. We have Leah and Akara looking on from the other side of the camera. Again, I say yes, 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 yes. I was right. And now you can be too. Let's review the 116th once again. It began by saying, I am in love. I'm devoted to a close personal relationship. Thank you, Amma. You're the one who encouraged Dowd to start thinking, feeling in an entirely different plane than he had been previously playing. I am in love. I am devoted to a close personal relationship. Indeed. Yahowah, he has heard my voice, considering me favorably and affectionately. Surely, he inclined his ear to me, doing so during my days, as I will be summoned and called, proclaimed and invited during the Miqra. A boisterous procession of the plague of death, even the snares of injury, even as the body dies, will for a time encompass me, swirling all around me. And the anguishing distress and troubling ordeal, even of Sheol, hell, will one day find me, attaining and possessing me. I will have met up with and experienced confining agony in a restrictive and emotionally distressful situation, and vexing and annoying affliction, frustrating suffering. And there it is. He knows he's going to fulfill Passover. He knows that his body will serve as the lamb. He knows that his nephesh soul is going into Sheol to fulfill Matsah. And he knows that he will be released during the celebration of Bikuwrym. With the name of Yahowah, I called out, and during the Miqra, I will be summoned. Let it happen, Yahowah. You and I both emphatically want you to deliver my soul and save through my consciousness. Yahowah is compassionate and correct. Our God is loving. Yahowah observes, watching over the open-minded and receptive, the amenable and approachable, who can be persuaded. I was barely hanging on and in need, fading away, dangling by a thread. Therefore, concerned for me, he saved me. My nephesh soul decided to return and has been restored to your home and your restful abode to recuperate. Indeed, it is true, Yahweh has weaned and raised you, providing recompense through you. He's speaking of his soul. It's true. You have at this moment in time undressed and removed my nephesh soul from dying, my eyes from tears, and thus my feet from stumbling. I will walk independently, progressing through life, unaffected by any societal influence, alongside the presence of Yahweh in the land and on earth for those living more than one life. I became trustworthy and reliable. I regained my credibility, becoming dependable. As a result of communicating, I was terribly afflicted and depressed, and now I am totally responsive. I myself sat in my sorrowful depression and alarming condition with my hasteful disappointment and my impetuous anxiety, my panic and dismay. Everybody lies. The entirety of the human race is dishonest and delusional. What? When? Where? Why? And how will I return to Yahweh? For all of his goodness, his generosity, and all of these advantages and benefits to me? The answer? The cup of Yeshua, of deliverance and salvation. I will lift up and carry. I will bear to provide salvation. And with and in the name of Yahweh, I will be summoned and called. I will be read aloud and welcomed as I am appointed to the Miqra. My promise and offering to Yahweh, I will complete, totally satisfying and fulfilling the purpose, conspicuously and in all earnestness, as a corresponding counterpart, publicly before all of his people. And so exceedingly rare and influential, highly valued and honored, treasured and respected for their intrinsic worth. In the eyes of Yahweh is the death of the physical bodies of his chesed, his reliable and devoted ones. Emphasizing and requesting this, earnestly seeking this opportunity that I know will occur. Yahweh, indeed, it is true. I am your coworker. I am your servant. I am the son of your Amma, productive mother. You have responded to open and release that which pertains to my bonds, freeing me from losing self-control through disciplined instruction. On your behalf and for you, I will absolutely become the sacrificial offering. Thankful for the opportunity, while conveying appreciation. And in the name of Yahweh, I will be summoned and I will be read aloud, called out and welcomed, as I have always been appointed to the Miqra. Well, my binding promise and offering to Yahweh is that I will honor and complete, totally satisfying and fulfilling, emphatically and conspicuously, as a corresponding counterpart, publicly in front of all of his people, within the courtyard and city, beside the walls of the house of Yahweh, in your midst, Yaruwshalaim, source of instruction on reconciliation. Hallelujah. shine Yahweh's light. Mizmowr Song, Psalm 116, from beginning to end. My life's work is done. It is complete, at least in this phase. Thank you for listening. Good evening.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yah on our next podcast.